So we make our way up to that bedroom door. I crack the door, let him stick his nose in the seam. He sniffs and he goes in, searches it, it's empty. Where is this guy, right? I know he's here. They said he's here. And I know he didn't get out because we got perimeter guys that have seen nobody come out. They've listened to us going through the house systematically to find this guy. And I look up backwards, attic access. With it instantaneously, within the dog going up and into the hole, all I hear is screaming.
Will, thank you for being here today. By way of an introduction, I wanted to provide a brief overview of your law enforcement career. You started with the Santa Barbara, California Police Department in July of 1991. You left that agency in September of 1999 to pursue a career with the Santa Maria, California Police Department. You held the rank of corporal at both of those agencies. During the course of your law enforcement career, you served as a patrol officer, DUI Enforcement Officer, and Canine Handler. While with the Santa Barbara Police Department, you were tasked with providing officers with specialized training related to the detection and apprehension of impaired drivers. Your responsibilities with the Santa Maria Police Department included scheduling, coordinating, and administering canine maintenance training for surrounding agencies. You retired from law enforcement in March of 2008 after nearly 17 years of service due to a career-ending injury. Will, thank you for agreeing to share your story today. So you make the decision that you're going to leave the Santa Barbara Police Department. Now, when you make that decision, you've already found a place to land. Is that correct? And where is that?
So actually, it's kind of funny that you say that. I didn't really have a place to land because, and I thought that was a little weird for me because when I left Santa Barbara PD, I was actually unemployed, not a police officer, for about a week.
Okay.
So it was a little weird, you know, thinking that, shit, I can't do any cop work, right? So a week later, I actually signed all of my papers and everything, got my badge and all that kind of stuff for the Santa Maria Police Department, which is where I also lived.
So you start in Santa Maria in '99. Kind of give me that overview of your career at the Santa Maria Police Department.
So 1999, I start there. I start as a P1, Police Officer 1, on graveyards. And I got promoted to corporal, a corporal's position, kind of the same structure as Santa Barbara. For my specialty position that I got, it wasn't a permanent promotion, but it was a promotion because I was in a specialty unit. So I worked patrol, and I got that promotion to corporal to become a canine handler.
And how long were you a canine handler?
I got promoted to canine handler in 2001. So I worked a year and a half, about a year and a half of patrol. And that was another one of those things where there was a couple of people that thought he's already getting a specialty spot and he's only been here a year and a half. But I got promoted to that corporal's level, basically, to handle the dog for Santa Maria, and I did that until 2007.
So at some point, the organization must have recognized your experience and the fact that you basically grew up in Santa Maria, because a year and a half is an incredibly short amount of time
Sure.
to all of a sudden pick up a responsibility like canine handler.
Sure. I made it known that my intention was always in my career to be a canine handler, because I just liked that workload and from the research that I had done. So when I got promoted that quickly into that position was because the outgoing handler who had, they took him out of the position, I think, 3 or 4 months before I got the new canine position, and he had left a really bad taste in all of the other ground pounders on patrol because he was never available, or he would tell them, oh yeah, my dog can't do that, or his dog wouldn't find the person that they were looking for. So they had a really bad taste in their mouth for canines within that city, comparatively speaking to dogs that they had had previous to that guy.
So Santa Maria, just one dog, or are there multiple
When I
dogs?
started when I got promoted into the canine position, there was only one dog.
Okay.
Eventually, it progressed into, because of things that I did after I became a handler, we progressed into having multiple dogs.
So tell me about your dog.
Okay.
What kind of dog was it? What's the name, and what's it certified to do?
So when I got promoted into being a canine handler, because it was because Santa Maria Police Department, even kind of the management had a bad taste for it in their mouth as well, because it just didn't work the way they thought it was going to work. They had real suspicion that it was just going to continue on. So typically when you have a specialty unit, you have the officers that work in that specialty unit, then you have a sergeant, and then maybe a lieutenant that are in charge of that specialty unit, right? So they didn't have that structure when I got promoted into that position. They basically had a lieutenant was in charge of the whole canine program. There was no sergeant that I had to talk to, and then he would talk to the lieutenant. So it was just a lieutenant that was in charge of. And so when I got promoted, I went to him, we sat down together. We kind of talked with each other about what we expected the canine program to be at that point, because it was basically just me and him, right? So he had done some research on canine academies that he thought might be the ones that would be more fruitful for what they had done in the past with other dogs. And so he told me about the canine academies, and we picked one that I had heard about before, which was Master Canine. Master Canine was located in Cherry Valley, California, which is in Riverside County, which would mean that I would have to go down there. They also brokered dogs, so they provided you the dogs and the training to be a handler, and it was going to be a 10-week course.
Okay.
So from a personal standpoint, when I got the dog position, I wasn't married to my wife yet, but we had a child together. And my daughter Emma and my dog kind of came into our little hub at the same time. So there was a lot of discussion that I was going to have with my wife Leslie, because she was also working shift work, and we had a little baby now together, and I was going to be gone for 10 weeks at canine school, and my ambition had always been to be a canine handler, which meant that I was going to have to be able to give 110% to that learning curve, because again, I kind of had an idea of what it entailed to be a canine handler, but as I progressed through my canine career, I had no idea of what amount of work it takes to handle something like that. I ended up going to the Canine Academy, 10 weeks long, stayed in Riverside County, actually city of San Bernardino. And then the training academy was up and over the hill in Cherry Valley. In a hotel, Monday through Friday, home on Saturday and Sunday, actually only Saturday because half the day on Sunday I spent driving back with my patrol car. So week one, day one, same thing, right? You're in that high mode of, God damn it, I finally got what I wanted, right? I got the canine position, and here's my thought process on how it's going to work, and I'm going to go to the school, and none of it works that way. It just doesn't happen. It's kind of like you get thrown to the wolves, right? You have this philosophy of this is what it's going to be like, and then you go there and it's nothing like what you think it is, right? So I start the academy, and it's myself, and I think there's 4 other guys that had just gotten canine handler positions from other departments. And Master Canine was actually training police departments throughout the entire state of California, and was even training dogs for Vegas Metro. So there was officers that were coming into Master Canine for what we call maintenance training in the canine world, which I'll explain. And then also new officers that were coming in to learn how to be canine handlers in the Canine Academy with a new dog. So I go down there day one with my patrol car, right? Drive up, and kind of the way the Canine Academy was structured, it was like a shaped like a box, basically, the property. A big field at the beginning where you drove in. Then the owner's house was at the top. On the back side of the hill, the kennels, where they stored all the dogs. So I pull in the first day, meet all the other guys that are there to get their dogs, right? I didn't know what kind of dog I was going to get. The only thing I thought in my mind was, yeah, it's going to be a shepherd, right? It's going to be so cool, yeah, right, you know. So I get there, and the head trainer, Dan Miller, we became really good friends as my career progressed, even after my career ended. He was in the Army, and he's one of these guys that just says it like it is, right? He was never a cop. He was a canine handler in the Army, and also did training in the Army for dogs with military personnel. Very crass, wore jean shorts, big old gut, right? T-shirt, food drippings all over his shirt, with a soda in his hand, and basically told you, hey, yeah, God damn it this, and God damn it that, and do this, and you know, that kind of guy. So I get there, meet everybody. He goes, okay, get in your car, drive past the house, go down the hill to the kennels, and the very first kennel, the very first dog run that you see, that's your dog. Go get that dog, put him in the back of your car, and get your ass back up here. What? Okay. Had no idea of what to do, right? So I jump in my car, and I back out, and I drive up and over the hill, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm driving over the hill, and I'm thinking, is this dog gonna bite me, or God damn, how do I, you know, it's the million things going through your mind. All of the philosophy of what you're gonna do and how it's gonna work, gone, right? My saving grace was that when I got down to where they had the multiple dog runs, there was a kid there that his job was to clean dog runs all day long, cleaning up shit and piss, right? So he just happened to be in the kennel next to where my dog was, washing it out. And I go, hey, I'm supposed to pick up a dog in the first dog run. And he goes, yeah, it's him right there. And I had this look like I have on my face right now, like, okay. And he goes, do you want me to help you or something? And I go, yeah, can you at least like open the dog run door for me or something? And I had my leash brand new, it's all stiff, right? It doesn't work, right? So I walk up there and I think I'm gonna get nailed, right? I look at this dog and I go, man, this damn dog, he's gonna bite me, right? And I'm gonna look like the idiot. So I walk in, he's got a flat collar on. What we call a flat collar on a dog is just a leather collar, right? So I get in there and he's kind of apprehensive. He's kind of looking at me like, who the hell is this idiot, right? And I'm doing the same thing to him, kind of like, okay, don't go sideways on me and don't, whatever you do, don't run away, right? So I go over there and I get my leash on him and I walk over to my car, and on a canine car, you have the load side of the car and you have the door pop side of the car, right? So the door pop side of the car is the passenger side, and the door pop is the door that you can push a button on your gun belt or your tactical vest, which will automatically open the door and you can launch your dog to go after somebody like you see in the videos, right? Best thing ever. Best thing ever you could do with a dog is send your dog from the car. So I take the dog over to the car, load him in on the driver's side. He gets in there and we're off, right? I'm thinking to myself, whew, got that idiot in the back of my car, okay. Drive all the way back up and over. All the other guys do the same thing. They drive down there, get their dogs. They all come back up, and I'm thinking, okay, now what? So I'm sitting there, standing next to my car. Dan starts talking about how the class is going to work, what time we have to be there. Don't effing be late, because if you're late, I'm going to send you home, blah, 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 you know the whole thing. So, and that, we started every morning at 7 o'clock. So getting the dogs loaded into each new handler's car and getting everybody situated with the collars, and then what we used back then was a pinch collar. And a pinch collar is the collars that you see in pet stores that have the prongs that go inward. So canines in those days were trained on a flat collar and a pinch collar. So by the time we get all that done, it's probably 10 o'clock, right? So Dan, in his typical crass way, goes, okay, get your goddamn dogs, go to work. Now I'm thinking, I got to get the dog out of the back of my car now. So, and he's watching, right? He's watching everybody, because there's seasoned canine handlers that are there at the academy that are doing training with their dogs, and they're doing all the obstacles, and they're doing obedience with their dogs, and they all look bitching, right? But they're laughing, right? Because they're watching the new guys. We're starting all over again, right? So Dan kind of sees me a little bit apprehensive about opening the door, because I think my dog's either going to launch out of here or he's going to launch and nail me right in the face, and it's all going to be over, right? And he goes, what the hell are you doing? Get your dog out of the car, right? So he comes over and he goes, what's the problem? And I go, nothing really, I'm just getting my dog out of the car. And I didn't say anything, because I'm thinking anything could happen at this point, right? And he goes, just take the goddamn leash and put it on your dog, get him out. So he opens the door, puts the leash on the dog, gives him to me, and he goes, go out there on the field and just stand in a row with everybody. And that was my day one of Canine Academy.
So German Shepherd then?
German Shepherd.
Name?
Aiko.
Aiko.
Yeah, A-I-K-O.
Okay. And
So
that, he comes to you with that name, correct? Or
Typically, the dogs will come with a name. It depends on what country they come from, and I learned all of this later on throughout my canine handler career. That back in those days, and the canine handlers out there that are watching this will know what I'm talking about. Police dogs for sale within the United States was way down here on the quality level. The quality level of police dogs in Europe and Eastern Bloc countries way up here, because that's what they do in Germany, in Czechoslovakia, in Turkey, all of those countries, even Russia, right? They train dogs to work, right? So you have kind of what I learned later is that you have the white van deals that go down. So most canine academies would fly over to Europe if they knew somebody or had a contact over there that knew somebody that was brokering dogs. They would go to Germany, meet up with that person, look at the dogs, and then pick the dogs that they wanted and take them back. Or you had the white van deals where you don't really know anybody over there, and those contacts to make was really hard to do in those days, where you contact somebody and they go, yeah, I know a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy who has some dogs, and they're cheaper than this guy's dogs. And it's all about money in police work, right? By the time you outfit a car and buy a dog and do the training, you're probably, in those days, you were looking at probably between 50 and 60 grand, right? So my dog, Iko, Czech Shepherd, 16 months old when I got him. And he was an asshole. He was an asshole, but I learned a lot from that dog. He was a Czech Shepherd, came from Czechoslovakia, and what I learned later on is that most dogs in Europe have a tattoo, and it's typically a number. And the tattoo is typically in the left ear on the inside. And some of them are really hard to see, and at first, when I first got Iko, I couldn't even get close to even pulling his ear apart, right, to look and see if he even had a number. No paperwork. Most dogs now, when you get them, come with a birth book, paperwork of what training they've had, who trained them, what certifications they have, either from Europe or even from this country now. So my dog, nothing. All he had on him was a flat collar, leather collar that said Iko on it, and somebody had written that on there in a pen, right? So 16 months old, Czech Shepherd is all I knew. Later on, as I got to know my dog, and it takes about a year to a year and a half to get to know your dog and actually start a bond with that dog. And that's probably the most critical portion of any handler with his dog, is that first year to a year and a half, is making that bond between the two of you. Because by then I was able to manipulate him, and that's when I found the tattoo down in the bottom of his ear. And what I had learned by then is that you can take that number and you can then go to the internet and type that number into a search bar under working dogs, and it'll give you possibilities of where that dog came from. Well, I narrowed it down to where my dog was actually trained, came from Czechoslovakia, was trained to be a sentry dog on the border, because back then the borders were still secured and closed mostly. And the way the Czechs train their dogs is they don't train their dogs to just apprehend people. A sentry dog that's working the border is trained to go and apprehend that person and kill him. So, which hence is why Iko was an asshole, because the Czechs trained their dogs a lot with electricity. So, and that's a whole nother realm of training within the canine spectrum that I have pretty good knowledge in, and taught me a lot about why my dog was doing certain things in respect to what I was doing with him.
So you finished the canine program, the canine training program.
Yep.
Your certification, and you come back to your agency. So not just your time with the dog, but time overall. And just so you know, I'm going to ask you about traffic stops, any incidents, and any specifically any canine incidents. So when you're looking back at your time with Santa Maria, is there a particular traffic stop with or without the dog that stands out in your mind?
So what you have to understand is that I had 10 weeks of training with this dog, right? And we were good together, but I was nowhere near what a seasoned canine handler would think I was. So I was hungry to find the man, and the critical part for a new handler is that very first bite that you get with your dog, because it will tell you whether you're going down the right path or you have a lot of work ahead of you. And what I had learned with my dog is that he was a go-getter. Man, he loved to bite shit, and he did really well at that. He was a good tracker, and he was a good searcher for the man, what I call searching for the man. So 10 weeks of training, driving back and forth to LA, not being at the police department. Everybody had these expectations of when I got back, what is this guy gonna be like, right? Because all they had the knowledge of was the guy that had the dog before me, who was lazy, didn't want to do anything with his dog, and was apprehensive because he was always worried about getting sued. So I come back and I go to all the briefings with my dog, take him out of the car, bring him into the briefing room, which is something the other guy never did with his dog. He never let anybody interact with his dog or pet his dog or anything like that, because in the way he was trained and his philosophy was, nobody does anything with the dog because I don't want you to get bit. Well, that's not the way it works, right? So I'd already talked to my lieutenant about what I was going to do when I came back, and he goes, you know what? I trust you. And this is where I kind of got that welcome feeling, right? From going from a police department where you're just another ground pounder to coming to a police department where a lieutenant, well-respected lieutenant within the police department, looks at you and goes, I trust you to do the right thing with this dog. Whatever you need, whatever you want to do with him, you just let me know, we're going to do it. I got the world in my hands, right? So first thing I do is I go to every one of the briefings, day watch, PM watch, graveyards, right? And I introduce the dog to all of the officers, guys and gals, right? Everybody has a different viewpoint of how to interpret a police dog. They either like them or they don't, right? So you learn real quickly which officers you're going to want to work with when you do a canine search, and which ones are probably better left in the back, right? Which is why I did that. I wanted everybody to see what I had and the way he operates just around them, okay? Obviously, I was still learning how he was reacting to everything, so I always made sure that when I went into the briefing that I closed the front door and I closed the back door, because I was going to look like when the dog takes off and doesn't listen to me when I call him to come back, right? So I made it very clear to everybody, especially on the night watches, that even day watch though, because we were sometimes busy during days as well. I made it very clear that if they needed the dog for anything under the sun, find somebody, search something out, and searching something out comes into play later on, because at first I only had an apprehension dog. Find somebody, apprehend somebody, do a building search, do an area search, anything like that. I don't care what it's for, call me. Even if I'm not at work, call me, I'll come out. And they really liked that. They liked the idea of me being available basically 24/7, right? And I was hungry. I wanted to prove to them, my peers, and the chief and the police department, that this dog was going to accomplish what they set out for it to do.
So you, for lack of a better term, or maybe it's the right term, you acclimate both parties. You acclimate the dog to the guys and the guys to the dog, right?
Yes.
And
the gals.
And the gals, yes. I use guys universally to refer to everybody in blue. So is there a particular incident with the dog, a particular apprehension, traffic stop, search?
So there's a couple.
Stands out?
The one that was probably the biggest learning curve for me was his very first one, and it came 4 months after being on the street. And what I noticed with my dog is that after that first bite, we averaged about a bite every 4 months.
Wow.
And my dog had 16 bites over his career. And they were all good ones. I mean, not just the kind where you just nip somebody or they grab onto their clothes. I mean, like full on, latched on, full on, where you go, oh shit, right? So 4 months into driving around, going do searches, building searches, training all the time. Even on my days off, I was going and doing stuff with them. Obedience is where you're walking the dog back and forth and doing certain movements and stuff like that. Training with him in the car, outside of the car. Every chance that I had, I was doing something with my dog, right? So 4 months into our shift, and the shift that I was working was the PM watch shift, which was 1600 to 0230. So I was allowed to go home at 0200 because I got 30 minutes of kennel time to be able to take care of cleaning the dog and the kennel and all of that, but I never took it. I always stayed till 2:30, and sometimes even later. If it was busy, I would just stick around, just trolling, right? We had a warrant service at a house, and gang problems within the city of Santa Maria very prevalent at the time. They were always either shooting each other, stabbing each other, killing each other, that kind of stuff. It was going down. So they were looking for this guy who was involved with a bunch of gang-related stuff. He was also related to some MS-13 stuff, which is a big gang movement, even within the country. So they got wind that this guy was held up at this house. And that he was going to be there because they were throwing a party that night. So they get a warrant to search the house, and they were going to hit it at 4 o'clock in the morning, because the typical hours of serving those kinds of warrants is somewhere between 3 and 6 a.m. because that's when those idiots are all sleeping, right? Or they're coming down off of their high and not doing anything. So they let me know that they're going to do a warrant service, and they want to know if I want to be there with the dog. Hell yeah, I want to go, right? So I'm working a shift. They start their briefing at 2 o'clock in the morning for the warrant service. I wasn't included in that, which later on I kind of made some changes because it's a learning curve, right? To everybody working together. So they're going to hit the house. They decide we're going to hit it at 3:30 instead of 4, because they were afraid that this guy that they were looking for had gotten wind about something happening. So, okay, SWAT guys get all swatted up and drive over there. I get there, and now mind you that in those days, canine dogs or canine handlers with their dogs didn't really interact too much with SWAT teams just yet. It was just kind of on the forefront, and people were thinking about doing it at some point in time, but it wasn't anything that we as a police department in Santa Maria, or myself with my dog, or the SWATers were ready for. But we kind of threw it together, right? We had all of those things in our pot, and we took those two things out of there and we threw them together because we needed to get this asshole off the street, right? So they get there, I'm there waiting, we come up with a plan, they tell me who the guy is. They had gotten info from a CI, and a CI is a confidential informant, that the guy is actually in the house. And there's 4 or 5 other people in the house as well. So the plan was to, instead of doing a knock and go in and find the guy, they're going to give him a chance to give himself up, which I thought was a little bit weird at first, because why would you announce yourself that you're there in a SWAT configuration and not just go in and get the guy, right? So they do that. They call into the house, and they were using the guys that were working patrol for graveyards to take up the perimeter positions, because we didn't have a lot of officers. Santa Maria only had 90 officers total. So you take 6 or 7 SWAT guys out of that, and some of those guys were graveyard workers too. You lose cops. And we had to have a perimeter because we knew somebody was going to bail, right? So all of the graveyard guys were on the perimeter, on fence lines. Had the place contained, they made the calls in. They talked to, I think it was a gal that was in the house. She confirmed that he was there. There was 5 other people there, and a couple more females were in the house. And they gave him the chance to give up. So they ended up getting everybody out of the house. The last person that came out of the house, because all the ones that came out of the house was not the asshole that they were looking for, right? And he knew that he was wanted. So they get everybody out of the house. The last guy that comes out of the house, they pull him aside and they question him, where's the guy we're looking for? He's in there. And he's not giving up. He made it very clear he's not coming out. He no terms, said, I'm not giving up. You're gonna have to come in here and get me. Okay. So SWAT plan number 2, right? We're gonna use the dog to find him, because it's a 2-story house. Front door, when you look in, stairs going up, landing, stairs going up to the 2nd story, bedrooms, bathrooms upstairs, downstairs, kitchen, living room, dining room, bathroom, and like an office room off to the right as you're looking into the front door. So we come up with a plan. We want to use the dog to find the guy. We don't know if he's got a gun. He's probably got access to a gun. he's definitely got access to some type of weapon, and we don't know where he is. So SWAT guys get all swatted up with their helmets and their tactical vests and all that stuff, and here I am, patrol officer in my BDU uniform, no helmet, no tactical vest, nothing, right? And they put me at the head of the stack. And the stack means SWAT officers lined up behind each other with weapons over the top of each one, right? And I had a guy covering me with a long gun who spent more time looking at the dog than he did looking into the house, which I ended up yanking on him going, stop watching the dog, look in the house, and watch my ass, right? He did. We get to the door, and my dog knows what's going on, right? He's got that, what I later on called that look. His eyes start bulging out, and he's just going back and forth, and he starts whining a little bit, and I yank on him to shut up, right? My approach to, now mind you, this is my first deployment with a dog, right? I had really no idea what the hell he was gonna do, right? But I was playing it off really cool, right? With all the other guys, here's what we're gonna do. You're gonna stand here, and the dog's gonna go do, and I'm hoping, yeah, this is all gonna really go down the way I say it's gonna go down. So I get down on one knee, I got my cover SWAT guy over the top of me. Everybody's got their instructions as to what's gonna happen when we go in, right? I make 2 announcements. My announcements were always the same, and one of the things that I vowed to myself was I don't care whether you're bilingual or not, I'm not making a Spanish announcement, which later on down in my career, that all kind of changed across the board, across the spectrum for canine handling in general, just because of legal issues. Santa Maria Police Department Canine, come out now or I'll send in the dog. Simple, right? That's what I was taught. Don't make your announcements too long, just keep it simple. That was my first one. Santa Maria Police Department Canine, come out now or I'll send in the dog. Second one, about 5 seconds later. Nothing. Unclicked the leash, held him by the collar, and my dog was trained in German commands because I speak German, right? And most dogs, when you get them, they're trained in the language that they're trained in commands from the country that they're trained in. So they don't speak a language, but they listen to voice deflection, right? So I retrained my dog in German commands because I can speak the commands properly and he knows what that sounds like. Carry on. Dog, hand under the flat collar. I'm listening, nothing. And I give him a voran in German, which means go out, which in his head means go search, right? Pew, gone, right? Everybody wants to do that and go in after him. I put my hands up and go, no, stop. I'm not yelling, but I'm making it clear. Do not go in the house, right? He's in there going back and forth, into this room, into the kitchen, into the office. Stops at the stairs, kind of looks up, but keeps going. And to me, trigger, right? Because I've learned to watch for those indicators that my dog throws to me that's not normal, right? Look for anything that doesn't look normal. And there's a lot of things that a dog will throw at you indicator-wise that don't look normal, right? That was one of them for me because it was instant. His head turned and he keeps going. So he comes back out of the office. I get him actually, surprisingly enough, to lay down at the bottom of the stairs, and I thought, oh fuck, that's really cool. So the guys behind me are all like, holy shit, that's really badass, right? So we go in. I go into where my dog is, I stop, and I let them do their SWAT tactical searching, because a dog is good, but it's not perfect. Dogs miss people because they're in drive, because the person hidden really well, or they're just not somewhere where they can get a good odor on them to bark at them, right? Because the philosophy in the dog, even if you're standing behind a door and the door is shut, is for the dog to sniff the seams of the door and get that odor of human, and to not try to open the door, but sit there and bark at it to let me know, hey, the guy's in here, right? We didn't get any of that at any of the closet doors or anything like that. So tactically speaking, they had to go in and search the whole bottom of the house, right? So that took a little bit of time. I'm sitting at the bottom of the stairs. Don't find the guy, so he's got to be in here. They said he's in here and he's not coming out. He's got to be upstairs. Upstairs consisted of 3 bedrooms and 1 full bathroom. So plan is, stairs go up this way to a landing and then double back to behind us, where there's the opening hall to the hallway for upstairs, right? So I'm thinking from a standpoint of, all right, I don't already have anything on to really protect myself, especially my melon. If this idiot is up here at the top of the stairs and he's got a gun, I'm gonna get cooked, right? When I go up there, because I'm just wearing a uniform, right? So I make another announcement at the bottom of the stairs, only because the guy knows that we searched the whole bottom of the house and we're coming for him. I'm gonna give you one more chance, right? Santa Maria Police Department Canine, come out now, or I'm gonna send the dog. No second announcement, because I don't wanna give us up, right? I send the dog, he goes up the stairs, and he doesn't stop at the top of the stairs, which indicates to me that the guy's not standing right there, right? So from a tactical standpoint, we have to get ourselves up to the top of the stairs, right? So I go up because I'm handling the dog. I had 2 cover officers, 1 on each side, gunning the upstairs. We make it to the top of the stairs, right? Dog's actively searching. He's going into the rooms. There's 1 bedroom that the door was closed, which initially he didn't show an indicator on that door. He searches everything, comes back, comes out of the bathroom, and he's swinging his head from left to right, but it's also going in a circle. So I'm thinking, something's up here, right? So the first thing I thought is, he's got to be in that bedroom. He's just not indicating to me with a bark, right? So we make our way up to that bedroom door. I crack the door, let him stick his nose in the seam. He sniffs and he goes in, searches it, it's empty. So now I'm in a quandary, because where is this guy, right? I know he's here. They said he's here. And I know he didn't get out, because we got perimeter guys that have seen nobody come out. They've listened to us going through the house systematically to find this guy. And I look up backwards, attic access, right? And I look at my 2 SWATers that are with me, and I go, he's up there. And they go, shit. How are we going to get up there? And I go, get me a chair. I'm going to put the dog on my shoulder, right? So we did a little bit of learning in the Canine Academy of how to pick up a dog and put him on your shoulder. Do you think I ever practiced that? When I got back, I forgot about it, right? So I'm thinking, he's either going to bite me or he's going to take to it and just go with it, right? Hoping for the second one. Don't bite me in the face or I'm going to look stupid, right? So they go, really? you're going to put him up in the attic? And I go, yeah, I'm putting him up in the attic because the guy's up there, right? So they get a chair, I get up on the chair, and the whole time I'm thinking, this is one of those things that one of the questions comes up. Could I redo this in a better way? 100 times over, right? So I get on the chair, or I grab my dog, I pick him up, and I huck him up onto my shoulder, and I've got him by the collar. His head is right here, right? And he's going, what the hell are you doing to me right now? The chair wasn't quite tall enough, so they had a ballistic shield, right? So, and this is all kind of happening within seconds of each other, right? So I go, okay, put the ballistic shield, just hold the ballistic shield, and I wasn't as heavy as I am now, right? So I get on the ballistic shield, they kind of push me up, and I get up there just to where the top of my melon is kind of in the opening. I had pushed the board away, the drywall to the side. And it took, so the way it's supposed to work is you're supposed to take the dog by the collar and just huck him up into the hole, right? So I did that, and he actually took his back legs and put them on my shoulder and just pushed himself off of me, and he's in the attic, right? So most people understand that an attic is nothing but 2x4s, insulation, and drywall on the ceiling, right? Which can support a dog, but then I started thinking, if the guy's up there and he gets a hold of the guy, how the hell are we going to get him out, right? With it instantaneously, within the dog going up and into the hole, all I hear is screaming. He's got the guy by the arm, right? And it's in kind of that back corner where that bedroom door was closed, right? That's where he got him, which is why the dog was doing this when he was going past there, because he was picking up the odor of him, because he's up there and he's sweating like a pig, right? Giving off the odor. So he's up there biting him, right? So I'm thinking now, shit, I got to get to him, but I don't know if he's got a gun available to him or if he's got a knife. I know that the dog's on him. I'm not thinking about him. I'm not thinking anything along the lines of he's going to kill my dog. Didn't even cross my mind, right? So I look at Mark Strecker, SWAT guy. I will remember it forever. I look at him and I go, get me up there in this hole. And he goes, what if the guy's got a fucking gun? You can't go up there, right? I go, I have to get to him, right? Just do it. So, and now it's been going on for what seems to me and the other guys an eternity, right? He's up there flailing around with his dog, biting him, and I'm trying to get myself up in there to get to him. So I get up there, and going back to my construction years, I know that if I think I can walk on this shit, forget it. I'm going to fall through somewhere, right? So I'm doing the crawl over the ceiling joists to get myself over, consistently yelling at the guy to give up and stop fighting the dog, stop fighting the dog. Well, the swatters have all their stuff on. They can't get up there. So they get up. Two guys end up going up with me, and now they're crawling over there, right, with their long guns and their helmets and their ballistic vests and all that stuff. And all three of us and the dog and this idiot are in the corner over this bedroom, right? He's flailing around. The other swatters now make their way over to the bedroom because something's got to give somewhere, right? So, and this happened in a split second. All it took was for that guy to fall between two of the ceiling joists, and the other swatters had just opened the door into the bedroom. The ceiling caves in. The whole circumference of the room, not just one little piece, the whole thing, right? So the two swatters fall down between the rafters. The guys that are standing in the room, the swatters, get hit with the drywall. I'm sitting over the top of the ceiling joists, holding myself up, and the dog's hanging on the idiot who's hanging by his hands, dog on his arm, right? Now what, right? So there's dust and shit everywhere, right? And it's loud because we're all screaming, right? It has gone to hell in there, right? So the SWAT guys break themselves free of whatever's fallen out of the ceiling, the insulation, all of that stuff. They've got him gunned now with their long guns, telling him to let go of the rafters, right? Let go, come down, all of that stuff. And I'm thinking, that's not a good idea because the dog's hanging on him, right? If the dog's not used to being in that type of, and I was surprised he held on that long. If a dog's not used to being in that kind of an environment, he's gonna pop off because he's falling. Dogs don't have a perception of depth, right? They naturally will let go of whatever they have in their mouth and just fall, right? But when they hit bottom, they're gonna find something because he's in drive to latch onto. So I'm in the attic. I lower myself down, breaking up the drywall underneath us. They've got him gunned. The two swatters that are up there now are making their way down as well. I grab onto the ass end of my dog and I grab him by the collar and I tell the guy, let go of the fucking rafters now. He lets go. We come to the ground and I do what is called in the canine world a hard out on a dog, where you take the leather collar and you cinch it up around their jaws to, you're not choking them out, but you're causing them to lose air, and they naturally will open their mouth to get them off. They go in, hook the guy up, and it was over. We had the guy. And he actually didn't have access to a gun or anything, luckily for myself, because what happens is you go and you relive it over, right? Once you come down off of that high, and there's a lot of things that needed to change after that day, but it was the bitchinest thing ever, because the SWAT guys were so happy about the fact that the dog actually went in and did what he was supposed to do, and we got the guy and nobody got hurt. And the best thing that I remember about that call is talking to the guys on the perimeter who were all just patrol guys, and they came up to me later and they go, man, we were all standing there and we were listening and we were watching, making sure that nobody came out, and all we heard was you making the announcement and the dog going in there, and then all like crashing and banging and flashlights, and we were like, yeah, he's got him. She's standing in front of him, he's got her by the arms, and dog comes in and just nails her down at the calf, rips it off.